Merry Christmas to you all, and because, well, Christmas is a good time, it's time to show something bad. It's to say, all the basically bad, well, the worst Robot Master stage of every classic Megaman game. Oh, but I say, not the 11, because I haven't played that, and I don't see any reason to get it. But, well, from the first 10, and that includes the 7 and 8, which I usually discard because, well, they don't play so well when compared to the other 8 of them. And it's time to check out, and this video also does not include the Fortress stages of the worst Fortress stages either. It's all about the Robot Masters. So let's just start with of course, Megaman itself. Now, at the first Megaman, it is time to also state something about what's the criteria of this review of this, but after some harsh judgment, I went to decide that Iceman is the worst stage of the original Robot Master stages, and I'm gonna do some clearer review about it. It does look nice. It has this frozen, you could say frozen little frozen tropic style, in a sense, creating a bit of eerie effect. And those green thingamajiggeries that come through, they can be quite annoying because of their habit of, how they do. And of course, it also introduces 2 of those wavy pattern penguins flying about, and the ground things, which also thing, and of course water as a visual styling, but nothing really, you could say, groundbreaking in that sense. And of course the water, which all it does is a nice sound effect, which was actually used quite a lot. But once you start to go through the stages, I'm having all the Robot Master weapons. There's this nice little visual style indicate something like the ramp, and say hello to the reappearing block puzzle, which, of course, if you are not familiar with Megaman-game styling and how these are timed, you're in for a real trouble with these. And this was the easy part. And of course, in addition to the Yoku blocks, well, they don't have them, but there's also ice physics, and which don't apply in water as well, but in land they do apply. So after one disappearing block puzzle, you're gonna get another, which, what to say, is not really that simple to navigate. It's not impossible, but it's not easy either. So if you're not expert on that, you're gonna have a trouble. And then comes even worse thing. These little blocks, which move erratically, shoot these little bullets at you. And, well, there's a little intermission piece of it. And then they're gonna add another one. Add these little flying things, which will come and shove you off. So the first half of the stage, you're gonna blaze through it without even noticing it's there, and the second half is gonna rip you apart real hard. Let's just make use of the magnet beam to get through this part of the puzzle real fast, because well, magnet beam is perhaps one of the most powerful power-ups in Megaman games. It's not the most powerful power-up of them in Megaman games, but it's certainly at the strong competitor about that title. And of course, the sudden stops, or let's say the fact that Megaman plummets like a meteor if the ground disappears beneath him, with that also makes it quite dangerous. And usually somehow Megaman just slips right through that, but that's it. And this room doesn't give up much anything, unless of course little bit of feeling, but so seeing that you haven't lost any energy from that stage because of the fact that you take a hit at the second part of those jumping puzzle things, you're gonna be killed anyways. So yeah, Iceman stage. Introduction to very dangerous, very unpleasant mechanics with ice physics, and that's already two strikes. But let's just show the third strike, which is to say, Iceman himself. Yeah, his design is quite nice, kind of cute, Eskimo-like, and it's completely pattern-based, so nothing wrong with that. But the level of damage he does is simply disproportionate. But then again, his weakness will also disproportionately rip him apart. So Iceman ain't great. Megaman 2, perhaps the best classic series Megaman game, which upgraded a lot in about 1 year of development to 8 robot masters with the actual mugshots of them, and only 2 of these stages are something that you really have difficulties starting with them. But it's time to go the one which I consider to be, I'd say, the worst of them all, which is to say, Crashman. He's got a nice design, red, white, intimidating, but his stage is not, because the stages, I have to do some thinking, because Hitman and Quickman stages are infamously dangerous with their obstacles, but they are not the worst stages I would say to have in this as Robot Master stages, because, well, they're just well presented. They got a great theme and styling, so they are not bad stages by themselves. They're just really mercilessly hard, mostly because of the little gimmicks they have in the stage design. But Crashman stage, well, it's got this, well, all the video game music of the era was kind of beepy, but this one has very severe case of having beepy music, which, well, doesn't really sell how good the game is. And of course it has all these, it feels some kind of, and the stage feels itself kind of, you could say, haphazardly made together with all these spinning platforms that you have to ride on. Not particularly difficult, just time-consuming, which is not that good thing in a platforming that you have to go and wait. And that is a really interesting little bit. And of course we have this little piece of going up, but it doesn't really give, it doesn't really give a sense of progress. Although it is kind of a climbing stage. And this room also doesn't really have. And about the environmental dangers of this stage, there aren't any. There is no pits, no spikes, well, and not anything, just obstacles and enemies and platforming. Oh, and if you fall off, you have to try again, not the fact that you try again. And this room is the only one which had this darker hue in the sky, giving that you feel that you are growing higher, and now it gets completely dark. And of course these birds, which make it almost impossible for you to get through it without tanking some damage. And of course this is a bit of a maze part, that if you pick the wrong ladders to climb through, you're absolutely hosed. But luckily in this room there's no risk of anything. And of course E-block if you wanna go and climb all over again, which is kind of an unpleasant little surprise for you to suffer. But luckily these little jumpy thingamajiggeries give you a chance to recover some of the lost health, and they make a quite nice sound. So this stage is bad mostly because of how insanely dull it is. And Crashman himself, well, he's a nasty surprise if you wait him. Well, yeah, he runs. He shoots the ball. Whenever you shoot, he jumps. So he appears very dangerous if you want to just fly it. But if you exploit his pattern, he dies quite simply. So in that kind of sense, he's quite a Not the easiest boss to tackle first, but his level of aggression can actually be mitigated. And of course his own weakness rips him apart quite fast. So yeah, Crashman stage, bad stage, or would I say the worst stage, because of it's so goddamn boring. Which in a Mega Man game is not a good thing to have a boring stages. And Crashman himself, Parango, makes it something that you can quite easily bait him, take him down, make him jump into your shots, let the bomb explode, avoiding in the blast zone. And that was it. Worst stage of Mega Man 2 completed. Nothing particularly interesting in this one either. That was the bad thing. 3 feels a bit, you could say, sloppily made after magnificent work of Mega Man 2, mostly because it has this weird 2 separate weakness changes, making of the Snake Man, Needle Man, Snake Man and Gemini Man, and then there's separate weakness change from Top Man to Shadow Man to Spark Man to Magnet Man to Hard Man. But after some consideration I decided, and this also doesn't have quite few not so good stages, but I think that the worst one goes to the Gemini Man, which by his own design and styling is really good robot master. He's got intimidating looks and the gimmick, but the stage is complete mess. It's got this dreary music, which is really unpleasant. These weird penguin enemies which feel completely strange. Gemini Man stage has it's not bad stage by itself, it's got all the necessities of Mega Man stage, but it just feels just so weird and inconsistent to the actual game itself. Because Gemini means twins, or twin. I don't know if it's plural or singular, but basically you could say it's a twin man, which of course is in the stage, is in his own gimmick, but oh yeah, and this place would have a glitch that if you would manage to jump through that orb without appearing, you could, well, make it so that there would be music would turn off. Not particularly so, but the Gemini Man stage is weird because of it has all these little tadpole things that you have to blast through. Quite interesting little gimmick thing to the stage, but nothing you could say really interesting in that kind of sense, which is the problem of this stage, is just the fact that it's just so very weird. And of course it has these little moments where you get to use the rush coil, just as a little tutorial to show that yeah, this new one has these. And of course the ducks and and of course slide as well. Nothing really complicated things, basic game tutorial things, which are good when the level design skill has grown. But the stage theme of the Gemini Man stage is just so absolutely incomprehensible. Is this some sort of water stage? Well, it has water hazard, yes, but it doesn't feel like, in a sense, water stage itself. It also doesn't have some sort of space stage feel, although they would be later additions. They would not come up. And of course, taking a bit of hit there wasn't particularly, you could say, not moved by my part, but there are worse things and more dangerous things in this game. Yep. So yeah. stage design in this stage is just weird. Completely incomprehensible in that kind of sense, that what is the plan? Why is this stage like it is? Why it has all these tadpoles in it? Why the water hazard? Water hazard with the torpedo monsters? Because it lacks, and it feels like it's the only water stage in the game. But Gemini and of course the visual flashiness of three main colors doesn't really aid. But Gemini Man himself is he follows a pattern, yes, but his, you could say, the basic gameplay, how he's taken out, gives him really nice, interesting thing, and it's of course the nice thing as well that there is no one real and one fake, but they're both real, and of course. Then he starts himself running about. In which case it just becomes a shooting fest. So, bad stage because of its complete weirdness, not because of any bad design choices by themselves. And well, that's it. Now, Megaman 4. You could say the ending, final, really good Megaman. Or you could say they're all good, but you could say something that they really worked hard to get this done. And it's also the phase that where you can see that there started to be some kind of understanding that the players actually have kind of 3 games and a couple of years to get good, you could say to get good. With these, so they could simply say that let's make these much more difficult, these beginning stages, and they certainly usually are, but not in gameplay wise they are follow the same rules, but I would say that the difficulty ramps up, but it's time to put into consideration. The worst stage of these is actually, well, it's not the Toadman because of his ridiculously easy boss fight, but it's actually Dustman. Because of many things. Yeah, there's this Megaman 2-esque moving platforms, obviously moving background images, but that thing that whatever weird thing that jumps out from the pit is the first, you could say, sign that yep, the difficulty is gotten bigger, and not necessarily in a good way, in the sense that the platforming is not become more complex. They've just added things that will screw you over if you do mistakes. But Dustman stage is it's a trash compactor stage, so of course it's gonna be trashy. Oh, that was interesting. I shot so much that the sprite disappeared itself. But, well, yeah, there's this little flying thing, assembling little platform is interesting little gimmick, and the fact that you can jump on them even when they are assembling is real nice detail. But generally, the stage just lacks, you could say, good presentation, because, well, video game can have a really good stage game design, but it may still be a failure if it doesn't manage to have a good presentation about it. And of course, then come these flattening things, which, well, they in a sense do not serve much purpose beyond being unnecessary delay you have to shoot your way through, which in my books is not that good game design to add lots of this kind of obstacles which slow you down. And of course the fact that the game has kind of issues with all the object placements and all that while it's added. And of course, so which, well, you could say that because of, well, that's very ambitious technically, that section, but it had janky programming, which of course might have to do with the platform being pushed too far than it was actually meant to be able to do, or say was planned to be made to do. But that stage it lacks, you could say, the really interesting details of that many other Mega Man stage, and even though in the Mega Man 4 do have. And of course Dustman himself doesn't really make a good presentation either. Yeah, we got this monotonous boss music. And his attacks. But the fact that he made blow up the... or randomly decide to do the vacuum attack, which... nothing wrong with that itself, but the fact that it makes him invulnerable, and he may waste quite a long time doing that attack, meaning that there's a lot of fighting time goes to not happening much. Which I'd say that's a really bad design in that sense. In the sense that he can just randomly decide that, yeah, I'm gonna now not do anything. And it tends to be... But he goes down because he follows quite simple pattern, but he may spend lots of time doing nothing, which is not that good to think that a boss fight that you have to wait for it to actually be something happening. Mega Man 5. That part which to me, my childhood was a bit of unknown to me. But stages this one has are taken to have. They are good stages, but there are also bad stages. And even though there's, well, Gravity Man and Starman are great stages because they do have their gimmicks, but in the end I figured out that the worst stage might be Stone Man. Of these original ones. Yeah, he's got an intimidating design, being made of bricks. But Stone Man stage... Well, you could say generally you could say that because this came out 1992 and Super Nintendo was already out at this phase, so the winds were already quite clear that the NES is gonna become obsolete sooner or later. So I guess that I have a theory, or let's say guess, that Capcom didn't pay that much attention to all the little technical trickeries Mega Man 5 and 6 might be having, even though they do work in the sense that they are functional solid games. But there's just the fact that it doesn't feel as good. But the Stone Man stage, well, it's already shown that the massive amount of one-ups that you're gonna get in this game, they really up that number. But Stone Man's stage problem is the fact that it's just so plain. It has barely any kind of, you could say, personality of its own. Which, in a sense, except unless of course you count just the background imagery, which is, well, it works, nothing wrong with that. But gameplay-wise, it doesn't have anything original, not at all. Hell, another candidate for the worst stage, Crystal Man, had a bit more interesting details in his stage, mostly because of the crystal shooting sniper shows and spikes and crystal shoots, which, well, not that interesting gameplay-wise, but you could say that the design-wise were consistent and understandable for the stage. But this one, just some mines, or will I say not mines as a physical object, but as a location, some mountain range, and this is a long stage as well. So there's really not much you would say good things about this stage. I've gotten a big number of one-ups already, which I'm not gonna get. Oh yeah, 3 one-ups already. And these enemies. Oh, but that was interesting. I never had noticed that before. But usually in Mega Man stages, when you get through that kind of transition, you can't go back unless, of course, it's on ladder. You can go up or down, and not even always that, because sometimes there's these ladders which end after once they go to the other screen, meaning that you can't get back up, climb up. But in this case, they made that screen something that you can go back and forth, which is interesting. I don't know, was it deliberate on them or accidental, but it was quite interesting. Interestingly, when you look about all the visual details of Mega Man games, the appearance of ladders changed from Mega Man 2 to Mega Man 3 and then we made forward, although the amount of ladders you have to climb is quite small. And well, yeah, stage is long and arduous, and boss himself, well, intimidating design. Doesn't make him any, you could say, better boss because of his, yeah, he jumps. He occasionally does that. And always, oh yeah. And he occasionally does the spinning stone attack which he has, but he goes down easily despite having a intimidating design, which might be deliberate. Many game designers do that they make boss very scary looking, but then it's quite wimpy and opposite. But this stage was just boring, so it's worse. Now Mega Man 6, the last stage of the original Mega Man 6 sextet or whatever, hexalogy or whatever, the original one. And despite Mega Man 5 being a big lackluster, in this one they did match up a little bit. That we're gonna end the series fine at the final stage. But and after quite consideration and thinking and forethought, afterthought, no thought, I did figure out that the worst stage is actually Wind Man. Yeah, he passes wind. Yeah. And this stage is, well, Mega Man 6 in general has the issue of being quite weird because of the game mechanics it employs and all that. It makes you to believe that it's really weird. And it is kind of weird, but this stage it's not that good because of the these kind of weird stages with platformings. They just don't. Even if the gimmick actually with the big glowing industrial fans and spikes you have to avoid from those fans do feel consistent to the stage, it doesn't really have much of, you could say, interesting designs. Oh yeah, this one was a bit jumpy thing, but if I would have had the jetpack, it would have been quite easy to get through. And let's get some extra health, just to show it. And there's that little spike pit, which doesn't seem to have much purpose, except of course to say that no, you're not gonna go, you have to go through the slide beneath that little beast. And of course, in this phase, they decided to put spikes instead of pits. Why? I don't know. But when the pits in video games appear in all kinds of locations, and there's that little alcove you can use to keep yourself completely safe. And couple of other critters. So you could say that the Windman stage has a problem of, well, many of these worst stages have problem of being uninteresting. Even though Windman stage does have this interesting gimmick, it has gimmick of the blowing fans. And interestingly enough, Megaman just crashes down when he takes that final hit. So that was it, the Windman stage. Just regular bowling program platforming with very small gimmicks to make it a bit more interesting. And Windman himself has a quite bizarre design for Robot Master, which is supposed to be a fast one. Well, he definitely can zip around real fast, but his actual fight is not that really interesting. It's all about having a proper distance against him. If you are at the wrong location, his shots will hit you. So he follows pattern, he goes down easily, his stage is quite boring, and the color schemes of Mega Man 6 tend to be really eyesores. So this stage was more or less a good prime example of it. Now, Mega Man 8 came at the later area time of the PlayStation 1. Not that, but before PlayStation 2 came out, not that good, just like Mega Man 7, and it also had four Robot Masters. So, but it's time to just pick up the worst of these original four, and it's time to go for the Grenade Man. I do admit that I'm not that expert with this, because this game came with just a little bit of experimentation, gut feeling. But I do say that the visually Mega Man 8 is really good. And the visual style was improved from Mega Man 7, which I might say that is the weakest of the classic Mega Man series. Mega Man 8 upgraded, or better say up and downgraded from that visual style by having these basically much smaller sprites in comparison to screen, which were of course, because of the platform being more powerful, could also be as detailed. So they did not lose much, you could say, graphical appeal just by picking up a new there wasn't much of you could say loss of graphical appeal by making smaller sprites, which I find to be quite nice thing, because well, it's a good thing that the game looks nice, nothing wrong with that, but I would prefer that you could also see a lot around you, not just something like a little blip in your first, not just a little blip forward to once onto enemies walking right in front of you. But Mega Man 8 not that good, and of course Grenade Man stage is just one of these many. But those little droplets, or better say exploding platforms, they came out. They do appear later as well. They were quite interesting little, you could say, innovation or addition to the basic Mega Man design decisions. So this game is not completely without, you could say, inheritance. And of course, these doors lead to obvious mini-boss. Yeah, now the and I don't like this kind of let's add an extra mini boss to the stage just because. But I do, but what was you could say something like you could say unsung, maybe not that prominent upgrade to basic Mega Man game is the fact that the life counter can be seen right next to your life bar, and same applies to the special weapon ammo, that you get to see that as well in a special, you could say, number. I do. Damn it. Yeah, it's a pest, this little thing.
Ready.
But I think that I've already shown enough that why this stage isn't that really good. Or better say, at least I'm gonna skip through that mini boss fight because it's very repetitive. Now to the second part of the stage. It really doesn't seem have much big change except these big swinging mallet things, which, well, they look nice. That's quite many prominent thing about Mega Man 8 is that it has many, you could say, details and things which look real nice. But once you get to the actual how they are, what they actually do in a game, this game design is that they don't look that nice. I would say they don't feel to have much of purpose. Oh, I just have to avoid that little bomb thing. And of course, now that little thing comes and gives me a bit of a running start in that little maze thing. And of course, to get through, of course you could try to get a little bolt, but then that is much risky. So it's a quite old-fashioned. Do you risk reward or not? That you get through quite easily, but do you risk getting killed? So it's time to face Grenade Man himself. Whoop.
Crush everyone!
Yeah, he's very enthusiastic about himself, about. So yeah, he explodes things. He likes being hurt. He rams. He's got bombs. Drops the girders. And now for the final phase of the fight, he just decides to he brings out the mines in addition to flash bombs, but he goes down quite easily. So, and he even did like being exploded. So Mega Man 8, almost every stage could be said to be worst stage, so I just picked Grenade Man. Mega Man 9 came out much later than the previous Mega Man game, about 15 years, and it's bloody much harder. So, but of these 8-bit style Robot Masters, I could say that none of the stages is bad, but I would say that the Hornet Man is good, you could say, choice for the worst stage there is. Even though the Jewel Man's stage has very annoying little spiky swingy thingies. They at least are somehow consistent with the level of the theme, but this stage is just, well, this stage just has the feel that it would be quite difficult for them to actually make this stage to be anything really, you could say, memorable. So yeah, Mega Man 9. Way more difficult than the previous one. No, let's just skip that. Yeah, little bit of gimmicks. So, and this stage already is quite good at showing that it's a matter of difficulty. Mega Man 9 is absolutely not playing around with it. There's already been lots of spikes, and this big swingy arm or whatever at the center of the stage makes maneuvering unnecessarily complex, meaning that you really can't just stay in one location. You have to move around to avoid it, and of course the spikes at the down floor as well don't make it any easier. But the stage itself, you could like almost like all the Mega Man 9 stages, is really robustly presented and shown. With these spinny thingamajiggeries that you have to shoot to extend, but then if once you shot them, then they actually pull off for a while, which means that you can't just keep extending them endlessly. You would have to actually get away from them to avoid being shoved off to spikes or worse. So you could say that of many good stages, you could say that this is the worst of the good, which is quite unusual predicament. That's something you have to pick the worst from a bunch of really good ones. This one is, but in this one it really happened. Usually it's something that you have to pick best of the bad, but in this case you had to pick. I had to pick up the best of the worst of the best. But Hornet Man himself follows the style of pattern-based Mega Man bosses, and his Hornets are quite pests. And of course, once you shut them all out of existence, Hornet Man himself becomes much more active. So that was Hornet Man stage, the worst of best. Now, Mega Man 10 came out quite quickly after Mega Man 9, which had gotten great reviews and generally was well liked. But it is the same problem as it was, that pick up the worst of best. So I think I'm gonna pick up the Blade Man stage. Is the worst. Yeah, he's got swords for hands, which is quite bad. But yeah, he's got this castle stage, and of course, because he's a blade robot, it's quite difficult. Well, you could say that Mega Man stages, well, they tend to of course have a theme. There's ice level theme, then there's fire level theme, and all that, and then there's just some vague, bizarre themes like robot with blades or some other sharp implements, like Cutman, which basically implementation is basically scissors in his head. But he's the cutting robot, even though he's basically that's basically a wood cutting robot, which would be strange that to have that kind of shears instead of saws in that in design. But Blade Man stage is you could say enemy combat's heavy stage, which of course might apply to many other Mega Man stages. Of course, some stages are much more based on gimmicks, but Blade Man stage is not so much of a gimmick stage. It's much more of a just regular platform run and gun gameplay Mega Man series is known from. Yeah, we got this cannon fort which lifts white flag. They want to negotiate, alright. Raising a white flag as a sign of surrender is not valid. White flag is basically a flag of truce that which indicates that if in war situation somebody's carrying a white flag, means that they are unarmed and most likely want to negotiate on something. They are not surrendering. Of course, they might want to negotiate about how they will surrender, but they themselves, carrying a white flag does not mean they are surrendering. It just means that they are not fighting, at least not intending to fight at that moment. And it's an internationally recognized symbol that it would be very, very, very unwise to use it as a misdirection, as a deception that, hey, I'm having white flag, aha, but I'm attacking using white flag as cover because it's a war crime. It's something that you don't wanna do, because the moment when you actually would need to use that white flag, that hey, I've had enough, and you made it so that you can't be trusted by you could say abusing that flag and what it represents. Oh yeah. And Mega Man 10 had all these extra stages which gave you chance to use these little extra weapons, blades, bombs, and of course the reflector shield. Well, these are not weakness to any bosses, but they do give you some bit extra, you could say, extra interesting firepower. Which is, well, not necessarily always needed, but it's still fun. Braidman stage, very, you could say, regular platformy stage, which of course being just worst of best, or at least worst of very good ones. Yeah, and Blade Man himself, very pattern based. Jumps around floor, room, jumps around roof, and using his triple blade to attack you. Completely handleable by platforming and basic styling, basic maneuvers alone. No need to do any kind of fancy trickery maneuvers. But let's see, can I actually defeat him? And usually I'd say that the Mega Man and the Robot Masters have a quite lopsided amount of damage they can deal, in sense that Robot Masters take down Mega Man much faster than Mega Man takes them down. But of course Mega Man is much more nimble, and the fact that he can find weakness which absolutely crush his Robot Masters, usually that's their idea. Yeah, he goes down. Very simplistic stage, which in stages which could have all kinds of themes and stylings, being just platforming and enemies is kind of weak move. So this was the final stage of the worst Robot Master stage, and as such it's gonna also end this episode right here and this whole review. Merry Christmas, with the triple blade being shown as usual.